Hello. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today? We have a couple of people in the stream already. So would you like to say hi in the chat so I can see that everybody's here? Yeah. So here's me in the chat. Today is likely to be a bit of a disrupted one because I've got some workers around the house who are kind of running around doing building work and coming in and out and knocking on the doors and all of that stuff. So it's possible that it comes out quite more disrupted than I thought it was going to be. But hey, we're going to give it our best shot and see what happens. So can everybody see me and hear me okay? How's the quality of this thing coming on? We've got Mercy there in the chat. Hi, how are you doing? All right. So this is a live stream that is dedicated to our University of Westminster students. So I've invited to this people from the undergraduate program that are doing company law with me, and also people from the postgraduate program that are currently doing banking, because all of you are suffering from the same problem, which means that you have coursework coming up and you've got your multiple choice examinations coming up. And it is possible that everybody is getting a little bit stressed out. So how are you guys feeling? Are you guys stressed out about your pending coursework and exams? It is a normal thing to feel a bit stressed out about exams, and perhaps it's worth talking about because we didn't have the chance to talk about this in the past. Taking any sort of assessment environment, whether it is coursework that you have to produce yourself at home and you've got a bit of time to do it, or it is an exam scenario, either the sort of exam where you walk into some sort of lecture theater that you sit down and they give you a piece of paper. By the way, that's the worker painting the outside of the house that you see there at the back of the screen. So if you turn around, you can say hi. Now, if you were working in an environment where you have a sit-down exam, this is stressful because the physicality of it is stressful. So you walk into an unfamiliar space, everything is laid out very strangely, you've got a lot of people around you, you're not allowed to talk to them, and you've got the invigilators breathing down your neck, so that was never a pleasant experience. Perhaps our undergraduate students that have started uni during the pandemic years with the lockdowns and so on, they haven't had the experience of a sit-down exam like this, but perhaps you've had this at school already. What we're having with coursework can be equally stressful because you do have some time to prepare it, but as you're getting closer to the deadline, you're starting to think, do I have everything that I need? Am I talking about the correct stuff? Have I prepared well for this and so on? So give me, what do we have? We have some emoticons here. Let's try and pick one. Give me a green colored one if you're undergraduate students, or give me some sort of red emoji if you are postgraduate students. Let's see how that goes. So I recognize some of the names here, but I don't know everybody by heart. So if you can manage to stick in the chat, what did I say? Green if you're undergrad, red if you're postgrad. So we get a quick appreciation of who is who. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I prefer doing these things on YouTube rather than doing them on Blackboard. I think this is a lot funnier. Or in any case, the visuals look a little bit funnier for me. But you let me know. So how do we deal with stress? How do we make sure that we are prepared to the best of our ability? One of the things that you need to remember is that you're not getting examined by people who seek to catch you out. So the whole point of assessment is to give you the opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge and demonstrate your skills. But this is all done in an environment where we want you guys to succeed. As I've told you on numerous occasions in the classes that we had together, the last thing I want is to see you guys back in the summer because you failed something and you're coming back for the reset. So trust me, nobody wants to have people coming back for the reset, that's for sure. We want people to be there and succeed the first time around. And we want the best results for you. We want the best results for your transcripts, and we want to give you the best opportunity to do well. So how do you ensure that you prepare adequately and you do well? One of the key ways of doing it is to remember that this is an assessment within a particular setting. So coming back to these very boring learning outcomes that we have set out for the module are essential. The module is, every module that you take, whether it's of undergraduate or postgraduate level or whatever level of study, is designed within a certain framework. It's got certain parameters to it. It's not delivered or assessed in the abstract. And for that reason, you will have a set of learning outcomes, and these learning outcomes frame the assessment. So we are not allowed to award marks because we think your narrative is great, or to deduct marks because we don't like you, in the absence of what it says in the learning outcomes. So every time you are getting concerned, am I preparing for the right stuff? And am I reading the correct things? And am I trying to deliver in my assessment the correct things? Always go back to the learning outcomes that are set in this module. Now, depending on the context of your assessment, you might have particular instructions or additional information that is given as guidelines. So, of course, you need to have a look at those. But the background of the entire process, the background of the entire assessment is always going to be the learning outcomes that have been set for the module. It makes it perhaps a little bit boring, and it takes away a little bit of the creativity that one may have in expressing themselves through the coursework. But since we're doing this in order to succeed in a particular frame, then we need to actually address these issues, and we need to give back, you need to give back the examiner what it is that they're after. So the overall result now for all of you, whether you are, you're the green team, we said is undergrad, the red team is postgrad, whether you're in the green team or whether you're in the red team, you all have to address the learning outcomes of your module. Now, the group of people that we've got with us here today, they're quite distinct in their method of assessment. The undergraduate students for company law specifically are addressed through a multiple choice test. Now, why a multiple choice test? Because we want to give the students something that approximates what may happen to them if they wish to qualify as solicitors and they go through the solicitor's qualification exam. The first part of that exam, as you well know, is addressed by a multiple choice test. So we have created for company law a multiple choice test that approximates the style of what you find in SQE1 if you were going for this assessment. So if you choose to do this to yourselves in the future, then at least you have some forewarning and some idea of what these exams look like and what these tests look like. Even if you don't do these exams, in general, these types of tests are becoming more and more popular, and they're becoming more and more common. The primary reason is that they are actually easy for the people setting the exam to assess them and use them and utilize them. Now, from the students that we've got in the green team in here, the undergraduates, have you guys attempted the formative multiple choice tests that we had made available during the reading week? So feel free to tell me in the chat if you've done it. There was a sort of sample test for people to do, and we made this available during the reading week. So that was like end of February or something like this, which is the same style of questions and the same format as the one that you're going to face in a few weeks' time in your final exam. So if you haven't had the chance to go through this test already, this test is still available to you, so you can go and do it right now. And I wanted to stress this, that the best way to prepare for an examination is not only to be familiar with the substantive content, but also, crucially, to be familiar with the style of the exam. I gave a presentation recently to a conference as to how does one prepare for a major exam and how does one prepare for the SQE in particular, whether it's possible to succeed in that exam. What I will do after we finish this stream, I'm going to put a link to that presentation down in the description below. So if you're watching this on the replay, you can go and click on that and watch that presentation. It's a very short presentation, but I think it makes an interesting point. The point is, you could be experts in the substantive content. You've gone through everything that we did in class every week. You've read all the stuff. You've done all the exercises. You read all the material, and your preparation on that could be perfect. However, if you're not familiar with the structure and format of your exam, then you're running a very significant risk. Because being perfect in the substantive underlying content will not fully prepare you for taking this exam when you get to it if you've never seen one like it before. And for the students taking the solicitor's exam, this is a significant problem because there isn't a great deal of things that you can find online to tell you what the exam is going to look like. So a lot of people are going completely blind into this. They're well familiar with the substantive content, but they're not that familiar with what the exam is actually going to be like when they're sitting it. And that puts them at a grave disadvantage. So for our company law students that are part of this session here today, since you're doing a multiple choice test that perhaps you have not done before, or if you've done tests in different formats, different multiple choice tests for different modules, as in commercial law, for instance, this one is going to be different. So you need to be familiar with this. One of the people in the chat is saying that they've got a problem with the sound. Is the sound coming through okay for everybody else? Give us like a thumbs up or click the like button or something like this if you can still hear the sound. Otherwise, I might start singing here to make sure that everything's coming through loud and clear. Yeah, okay, we're still good with the sound. All right. So if we have if you have a problem, then maybe there's something wrong with your computer. So let's put this. Try and log on again if you are. I can't type and talk. If you are having sound issues. Normally, YouTube tends to be more stable than Blackboard, but you never know. Things on occasion fall apart. Right. So the idea is, obviously, being well prepared for the substantive content is great and is what you need to do, especially if you're looking for higher marks. But being familiar with the format of the exam is also going to be super significant. So the message for our friends that are taking the multiple choice tests, the undergraduates, the green team, is that you guys need to go and do the sample multiple choice test that I gave you during the reading week to be sure that you're familiar. And the questions are, precisely the same stuff, right? The same format, the same style, and so on. And you'll be happy to note that they're a little bit easier than the actual multiple choice tests that you get for the SQE, because the ones for the SQE are like super complicated and they're super focused on the minor details, while the focus of the classes that we did together were more on understanding how the law works, context, importance, impacts. So we're not obsessing about every minor detail, but we're trying to understand the content in a broader fashion. Now, when it comes to our friends from the postgraduate program, the people on the red team, you guys have a traditional piece of coursework to prepare. The skills required are slightly different. You might have the advantage that you have done a lot of those already. So for students that have started at the beginning of the academic year in September, they've already been through an entire term where they did this. For students that have started in January, there's still been a little bit of time since then. So surely you must have had the opportunity to do a little bit of writing. Now, how do you actually prepare for this particular piece of coursework? The students in banking that we are together, you guys are lucky that you've had your draft marked and feedback has been returned already. So feedback is important for all sorts of assessment purposes. This is going to be important for the undergraduate students here as well. Every time you submit an assessment, you're going to get a mark and you're going to get some feedback telling you how you did. It is crucially important that you don't only look at the mark, but you also go back and look at the feedback you received, because it might identify weaknesses and things to work on to improve for next time. The reason why we go through the process of returning feedback on your assessments is precisely to give you this opportunity to reflect a little bit on what you've done and make sure that it's done better with better results the next time around. So our postgraduate students that are in here had the opportunity already to receive feedback on a draft of their assignment. So the same topic, they did a draft with particular items that they needed to put, and I've told them whether they're on the right track or not. So it's crucial that you don't only look at the mark that you got for your draft, but you look at the feedback that I wrote on your papers. If it says this looks wrong, or you're going down the wrong path, or it looks like you're copy pasting quite a lot of things and you shouldn't, keep this in mind when you're producing your final coursework. In fact, it's going to be quite difficult to fail this, considering that you've already received feedback, so kind of on working on it to some extent. So I would have expected that anybody who reacts to those feedback will improve enough to pass, even if they've got some issues in putting together this assignment. Now, when it comes to putting together a longer piece of assignment, that has got its own challenges. Our undergraduate students were subjected to this when they had to do their long piece of coursework in January. So I don't know, how do you guys give me some sort of depressed emoticon if you think that this did not go well. Were you happy with the results of your assessment when you got back your results in January? Because I didn't hear much about it, so I assume people were happy, but I don't know. Find if you're unhappy with your feedback or with your mark, find something ugly in the emoticons and then I'll work it out. But the students that are doing now at postgraduate level, they've got a slightly longer assessment to write, which also presents its own challenges. Is everybody familiar with beyond the substantive topic, beyond the learning outcomes that I already mentioned? Is everybody familiar with what the expectations are for a good piece of coursework? Do you feel that you have received enough interaction either with the teaching team, or have you gotten enough information from within the module itself to understand what makes for a good assignment? I do have actually a video where I take an assignment and I go through it to demonstrate to the students what a good assignment looks like and what mistakes are there to be avoided. I had shared that video with you guys earlier. If you haven't seen it, I will put a link to down in the description below, so you can come back to this video later on and have a look at that video, because very often students are asking for a sample essay. The problem with a sample essay is that it locks down or how you could write a good essay in just one person's impression. And if there is a component of research and of independence in the way that you're putting together your coursework, and there usually is, it's possible that you produce a very good essay doing something different from your colleague. So it could be that two people have started looking at the same question, have worked with the same learning outcomes in mind, but because they're looking at different types of literature, or they're looking at different sources, or they think about it in different ways, they end up producing two distinct pieces of paper. They could be different, right? But they could still address the question very well, and they could get perfect marks. The danger with us giving you a sample essay and telling you this is what the first class answer looks like, it could be that it sort of narrows the mind into one particular way to approach the question. That's why the majority of teachers, when you ask them, can I have a sample? They'll say, well, we don't really want to do this because we find this too limiting. However, I still understand why a lot of the students are asking to see something like this. And that's why I made that video that, as I said, I'm going to put a link down in the description. So you have at least some impression of how we think about it when we're going through the process of marking one of your assignments. So one of the comments in the chat is that you haven't received feedback on the presentation. No, I have not marked the postgraduate students were doing some presentations. I haven't marked those yet. I'm going to mark those over the next few days and then send you the feedback. What was my priority was to return feedback on your draft, because you need the feedback on the draft to produce the final piece of coursework. So that was the thing that came out first, and now I'm working through the rest of your assessment components, so you're going to have feedback on your presentations and everything else that you may have done in due time. Right. So how do you prepare for a longer piece of coursework? Clearly, as we said, you need to be familiar with the learning content that it's trying to address, and you need to stay within the learning outcomes of the module. Interestingly, some students, and there's always a few, they will look at the question that they're given for their coursework in isolation, meaning that they will not look at the module within which they've studied this, but they will take the question and start doing Google searches or ask ChatGPT to write something for them, or do something along those lines. The problem with that strategy is that you could be slowly writing stuff that sounds nice, but you're walking away from the aims of the module. If you're walking away from the content that you've been taught and the framework within which your assessment is getting graded, then you might not get good marks. We're not looking for an answer to a question in the abstract. We're looking for an answer to a question within the framework of a particular module that you've been studying. We have a question in the chat that says, when is the final MCQ due? This is released by the exams office. So as in every university, anything that is a final year exam is centrally timetabled. Therefore, you will receive notification from the exams office or on the university website that says, these are all the dates for the exams, and you're going to find your particular module within that list, so you will know what the date for the exam is. I think that the exam is going to be somewhere at the beginning of May, but I'm not sure whether it has been nailed down. My impression is that we will open the multiple choice test for you guys on the 15th of May. But these were preliminary dates that I had. I don't know whether these are the final dates that have been agreed. Now, you need to look at the instructions for the technical aspects of whatever in assessment you're taking very carefully, right? So far we've talked about how do you prepare, how do you need to think about the module that you're doing it, how do you need to look at the learning outcomes, how you need to be on top of the content, and then the sort of slightly different attitudes that you've got to preparing something, if it's a sit-down exam or a time-limited exam as opposed to a piece of coursework. What we also need to think about is the technical aspects of it. For the submission of coursework, it is the standard stuff that you've done in the past. You prepare it at home. You've got a deadline with a specific time that it needs to go in, and then you upload it on whatever the university's system might be. In our case, for most of you in here, it's Turnitin that is accessed through Blackboard. It is important that you submit before the deadline. If it has given you a deadline of 1 p.m. on a particular date, you need to be sure that your submission has been uploaded before 1 p.m. Certain universities have got automatic penalties for late submission. The institution where most of you are from in here does in fact impose automatic penalties. It seems harsh, but unfortunately this is how the system is set up. So if we said that you need to submit your assessment by 1 p.m. on the 20th of April, and you submitted at 1:01 because you are 1 minute late, you're still going to suffer the penalty for being late. And Westminster system applies a 10% penalty for being late within 24 hours. And if you're late beyond the 24 hours, then you get no mark at all. So it automatically trashes your submission. If you're having something that prevents you from submitting, then either you can submit a claim for mitigating circumstances in advance, or if it's something of an emergency nature that happened, submit as fast as you can in relation to the deadline that you've been given, and then do your mitigating circumstances form. The registry will then assess all this and will tell you whether your submission has been accepted without a penalty for being late. It happens very often that students might be facing an emergency, or they might have suffered an accident, or they were sick on the day. So then they go and submit their assessment as fast as possible as they can afterwards, and then they submit their mitigating circumstances form. When the exam board sees this at the end, they might come back and say, okay, this person has been in an accident on a day, we accept their submission being late without a penalty. But be very careful with this, because we always have students that will submit, they're not suffering some sort of problem. They just had a mundane technical issue, right? So they tried to upload their essay, and the computer just crashed. And by the time the computer restarted, it was a few minutes late. Even for something mundane like this, you will suffer the automatic penalty. And it's also, I think, important to know, I don't know if you know this, but the university will not accept technical problems as mitigating circumstances, because their position is, you knew what the date was, you should have tried and uploaded it a little bit before. So if you decide to upload something at the very last second, so if you press upload on your computer at 12:59 when the deadline is 1 p.m., then the university considers you taking a risk. So if it goes wrong, then it's your fault. Was everybody in this room aware of the issues that we're having with late submissions, this system for automatic penalties and so on? If you didn't know, this is probably sounding very, very alarming right now. Yeah, I'm assuming that most of you must be familiar with this. Now, this is the traditional setup for submitting an assignment when you've got a long time. For instance, we released the coursework questions like ages ago during the reading week, I think at some point in February or beginning March. So you've had ages to prepare your assignments. If you're doing a time-limited assessment, then the setup is a little bit different. So the students in the green team in here, who are the undergraduates that are taking the multiple choice test, this is going to work slightly differently. You will have the test available to begin within a 24-hour period. So if in fact it starts on the 15th of May, but do check the university calendar for this. If it starts on the 15th of May, you're going to be able to start it and finish it within a 24-hour period. However, this does not mean that you've got 24 hours once you started the test. For that, you're going to look at the particular instructions that are given with the test. For instance, for the test that we're doing for the company law students, the test lasts for 90 minutes. So you will have the clock ticking from the moment that you started it. So you're not obligated to start it at 9 a.m. on the 15th of May. You could start it at noon. You could start it in the afternoon. You can start it whenever you want, up until 9 a.m. the next day on the 16th. But from the moment that you clicked go, it starts counting down the 90 minutes. So this is a time-limited test, but you've got flexibility as to what point in the day you launch the test. The reason for this is that, not everybody can be quiet at home. You're doing this at home. You're not doing this at uni. Not everybody can be quiet at home at a specific time of day. So we didn't want to impose the burden of kind of launching the test at the same time for everybody. But the test needs to be time limited, because this is the nature of a multiple choice test. Otherwise, if you had unlimited time to do it, what would you do? Come on. Who's going to be brave in here to admit to what they would be doing if they had unlimited time to take the test? Who's going to say it? You would be Googling all the questions. This is what you would do. Or you would be feeding all the questions to ChatGPT and waiting for the answers. So that's the reason why we cannot actually give you an endless amount of time to attempt these tests. In order to protect the integrity of this test as an examination, it needs to be done within certain frameworks. Now, since I've got all you guys in here, and hopefully this is still kind of coming out nicely, and you can still see me on the video, and you can still hear the sound and all the rest of it, and you are super excited to be on YouTube as opposed to the university system. Does anybody have any questions about particular aspects of your specific examinations, or about exam preparation or coursework preparation, or anything at all? If you've got any questions, feel free to put them into the chat, so then I can see them and respond to you. It would be nice to see how you guys are getting on. So let's do a quick poll. Can we do a poll? Let's try and do a poll. Yes, there we go. So I'm gonna schedule a poll for you. Let me just type this. Right. So there we go. Try and respond to this poll and we'll see how people feel about it. So how stressed are you about your assessment? Much, little, so-and-so. And then I can do a poll between me and my colleagues. How stressed are we about marking your assessments? If you followed our instructions, we're not stressed at all. We're going to be very chill. But if you do random things, then we are going to get stressed. So let's see. We've got the poll running. Actually, to be honest with you, I know how to launch the poll, but I don't know how to stop it. Right, we've got a few votes coming in. 12 votes. We've got 14. Yes. So everybody seems to have voted already. So let's end it and see the results. All right. Okay, so how stressed are you about your assessment? Much. Ooh, 78%. Little. Ooh, so and so. Okay. This isn't working out. I thought that you guys would be getting less stressed progressively rather than a lot. All right. Okay, let's try and do something else. Let's try and ask a different question. So the question will be, so do you feel that you had enough support in preparing for your assessments and your coursework and so on? So, tell me genuinely, I'm not going to be offended if you say that you haven't had enough support and you would expect me to do something different, and this is not just limited to me. This is, across the various things that you're doing. I mean, obviously people are doing other classes. They've got assessments with other people and so on. So perhaps you feel that you could have received additional support by some of my colleagues or in other aspects of your study. Okay, so let's see. So far we've got 7 votes, some 10. Okay, that's going up. Cool. How about the rest of you? Let's see how everybody feels about this. So it seems that most of the people feel that they've had enough support in going through their modules in order to prepare for their assignments. Okay. Oh, we got another one. All right. Okay, so these are the results of this so far. So most people feel that they've had support. All right. So now my question is, if you feel that you've been adequately supported, or supported for the most part through your study and in preparing for your assignments, why is it that you guys are so stressed? Is it perhaps external elements that are affecting your preparation? Maybe you don't have enough time because of everything else that's going on in your lives, or is the pressure of the various things that you're studying coming together that's causing you trouble? So yes, we've got a question in the chat, whether the questions in the MCQ that we're doing for company law will be similar to the mock. Yes, they are exactly the same stuff. I mean, clearly not the same questions second time over, but the questions in the mock that you received in this semester are exactly in the same format as the questions you're going to have in the final exam. So the only difference, in fact, as your colleague there is saying, is how many you have to do. So clearly there are 45 questions in the final exam. There were only 15 questions in the mock, I think, or something like this. Yeah. By the way, if the guy who's doing that falls over, this is gonna turn into one of those viral videos that, you know, in the context of a class, there's somebody kind of crashing off a ladder out there. But we don't want that to happen. We want everybody to stay chill and safe. All right. Okay. So what else do we have in here? So do you guys have got any additional questions now that we're all here today? I thought it would be useful to you to have a session like this a little bit closer to the exam. It was a little bit tricky to find a way to time it, because if it's not part of the teaching term, then it's a little bit difficult for people to kind of manage to be at the same place at the same time, even if we're doing this online. But I thought this might be helpful. If you guys felt that this is helpful, then, you know, give us, like, hit the like button, give us a thumbs up or something, or put a comment, so then I can tell everybody else about it, and I can convince my colleagues to do something similar in the future. Okay. Practice MCQs. Okay, that's not a bad point. What we had done so far is that we had an initial set of multiple choice questions during the reading week in the first term for the undergraduate students. So that one is still available for you, so you can have a look at that one. And then we had the mock MCQ that was available in the second term. But yes, it's a good idea always to have as many things as possible to train and to have additional questions to work on. So why not? I can offer you some links to external sites that are offering additional questions in the style of the ones that we're doing together to get some extra practice. That's always a good idea. I don't know, we could ask ChatGPT to generate some questions, and then you guys have a look at those ones. What do you think? I actually have tried to do this. I've tried to teach ChatGPT how to create multiple choice questions for the SQE, and it did fairly well. I mean, I've got a video on that one as well to show you how it's done. So maybe I can ask ChatGPT to produce an additional set of questions for you so you can train on. So that's certainly a good idea. Right. So hopefully, as we're moving along, we should, as you're progressing with your revision, you are improving your capacity to address these issues. You're starting to feel a little bit more confident about everything. And you need to, in a way, embrace the stress. So every sort of assessment, either whether it be coursework or some sort of exam, is going to be a stressful experience. So be prepared for this. This is perfectly normal. But if you have prepared within the context of the module that you're working, within the context of the learning outcomes, the way that they've been set up, and you have an adequate breadth of knowledge of the things that we're covering together, there's no reason why you shouldn't do perfect in your exam. One of the questions we've got in the chat is whether the MCQ is going to include problem-based questions. Yes. As you saw from the mock test that we had made available, some of the questions are kind of straight, is it this or that, or what's the correct case for this or that. Some questions present you with a little bit of a scenario that, A and B are trying to do something, what is the best solution for them, or what is represented by what they're trying to do. The difference between the questions that I set for this examination and the questions that you're going to find for the SQE is that all the SQE questions are problem-based. Like the vast majority of them are problem-based, and their questions are very, very long and very complicated. So our problem-based questions are a little bit simpler, taking into account the limited amount of time you guys have available to do them. So what is the best way to prepare for all of this? If you are taking coursework, then you've got of course, a limited question on a particular aspect of the module. So the best way to start is to identify which part of the module your question relates to, and go back to the learning content and the suggested reading material for those particular classes and start from there. If you're preparing for an examination that is meant to cover the breadth of the entire module, and you must remember that in the context of our company law class, the multiple choice test we're having at the end covers the totality of the module from beginning to end, right? First term and second term. The best way to prepare for this is to have a base understanding of the totality of the module. Obviously, there are some areas that you're better at or you understand better, or areas where you choose to focus your revision. However, you need to have a broad understanding of the totality of the module in order to allow you to address these questions. The difference between a traditional exam and a multiple choice question exam is that you don't have choice on the questions on the multiple choice. You need to answer all of them. So it forces you to have a fundamental base understanding of everything that we've done together. If it was the sort of exam where you can pick some questions and then leave the others, then obviously you could make selections as to the areas of the module you specialize in. But here we're checking breadth of knowledge as well as depth of knowledge. But to be able to address all 45 questions effectively, you need to have an understanding of everything that we've done together in the module. Okay, cool. So if you got, we're going to go on for another minute or so. If you guys have got any additional questions, just, if you're quick to stick them into the chat there, I can answer them. Otherwise, feel free to put a comment, because this video is going to be available for you to watch again afterwards if you want. So feel free to put a comment under this video, or otherwise you can use the discussion forums on the university's VLE, or if it's something of a personal nature, feel free to send me an email to ask me as well. Now, we've got one final question here on the draft that the postgraduate students were doing. Well, you will get a result better than if the mark that you got for your draft is not the first class mark, then it's suggested there's an area for improvement. So it could be, this is probably identified in the feedback that you received, what you need to work on. Now, if your mark was something in the region of kind of 67, 68, and the feedback is that this is quite good, the way that you can improve from that one is by beefing up the research that goes into your piece. So make sure that if you're already coming with a good mark and everything in your structure seems to be okay for your draft, the way to improve the result is going to come from the quality of your writing and the way in which you incorporate the relevant literature into your writing. So it's the same pattern as what is the request for producing a good essay. And I said I'm going to put down in the description a link to a video of me marking an essay that perhaps might give you a little bit more information on that if you have not seen it already. Right. Thank you very much, guys, for turning up today. It was lovely to see so many of you, and I hope you found this useful. If you did, hit the like button, and then I will come back and do some more for our next presentation. The postgraduate students, we will be in touch because we're going to be working during the summer on your dissertations. Those of you that started in January, obviously we're going to have classes again from September onwards. But for our undergraduate students, best of luck with your exams. Best of luck with your preparation. One of the students is asking there, what is the best way to focus? What's the best thing to focus on? Well, I think going through the lectures and tutorials is essential, right? So because you need to have a base understanding of everything that we did in every week. So yeah, guys, best of luck to everybody. Good luck with your exam. And I will be around. If anybody wants me for office hours or anything like this, just drop me an email. And the best of success for everybody, and have a great summer coming up. Thank you. Bye.